AI is transforming customer service. It's real and it works. And with Fin, we've built the #1 AI agent for customer service. We're seeing lots of cases where it's solving up to 90% of real queries for real businesses. This includes the real-world complex stuff like issuing a refund or cancelling an order. And we also see it when Fin goes up against competitors. It's top of all the performance benchmarks, top of the G2 leaderboard, and if you're not happy, we'll refund you up to $1 million, which I think says it all. Check it out for yourself at fin.ai.
Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
7 things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Sunday Seven.
I'm Ciara Evans in for Jamie East this week, and on today's episode of the award-winning Sunday 7, we investigate the UK's unusual meningitis outbreak, we find out what caused a sonic boom across 10 US states, and we hear some 75-year-old recordings of Wales songs. Plus, Will Guyatt, the Smart 7's resident tech guru, looks at the potential death of the metaverse and gets up to speed with will.i.am's latest genius idea. If you're enjoying our episodes, please do like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We're here 7 days a week at 7 a.m. with the 7 biggest stories on the Smart 7 in association with Metro. Before we get started though, it was on this day in 1981 that the first video disc went on sale. It was a technological marvel at the time, able to play a 2-hour movie on a 12-inch disc with a player that only cost about $500. It predated the DVD by 14 years, but ultimately it never took off because the manufacturers of video players dropped their prices and killed off the new invention. The last 10 days have seen health authorities in Kent battling with a particularly problematic outbreak of meningitis. It sparked a national health alert from the UK Health Security Agency and has seen at least 24 cases with 2 deaths reported. UK Health Secretary Wes Streeting laid out the timeline for the outbreak in the Commons this week.
This is an unprecedented outbreak. It is also a rapidly developing situation. UK HSA was notified about the first case on Friday the 13th of March. In line with established protocol, health officials began identifying and tracing the patient's immediate close contacts who were offered prophylactic antibiotics as a matter of urgency. On Saturday, the French authorities alerted UK HSA to a second confirmed case in France from an individual who had attended the University of Kent. It is important that the House and the wider public understands that even before the public health alert was issued, students and young people who had been in close contact with suspected cases were being offered antibiotics. This is precisely what one would expect as a rapid response, and I'm confident UK HSA acted as quickly and as comprehensively as possible.
At least 4 of the cases were identified as the bacterial form of the infection meningitis B. That's problematic because the vaccination programme for what is known as Men-B was only rolled out in 2015, which means many teens and young adults are unlikely to have been vaccinated. Dr. Fari Ahmed told BBC Breakfast the important symptoms to watch out for.
Headaches, vomiting, not liking the light, so photophobia. Some people can be a little bit confused, a bit groggy, not quite themselves. Then the rash. So the rash is a rash that when you press with the glass on it, it doesn't disappear.
And normally a rash does disappear.
Most rashes will disappear with that. So the other thing to be aware of is not everybody gets everything, and the speed with which it comes on. You know, people often, you get a bit of a cold, you start feeling a bit better, but people just quickly get worse. So those are things to watch out for.
It is unusual for a meningitis outbreak to occur on the scale that this one has. The disease typically occurs in isolated cases, with a 2023 outbreak including 2 children at a nursery. Even with bigger outbreaks, which included a prolonged incident in Gloucestershire, that resulted in 65 cases that took place over a much longer period of time. The meningitis bacteria is generally harmless and can live in the nose, with about 10% of people having it, which can rise to as high as 25% in teenagers and young adults. It's not a problem until it crosses the barrier appears inside the nose when it can cause either sepsis or meningitis. So it's peculiar to see a super spreader event, which appears to be what happened in Kent. And it's not clear if it's a change in the virus or a change in human behaviour that has driven the outbreak. Adam Finn is a former member of the Joint Committee on Immunisation and Vaccination, and he says while the situation is unusual, people shouldn't be alarmed.
The number of cases of meningitis and sepsis in young people, adolescents and young adults, is actually very small, and immunising the entire population of that age is obviously a very expensive, and it would be an operation that would take a lot of time and resources in the NHS. So I guess the decision that will have to be made is whether that is worth doing alongside all the other things that the NHS has to do. The risks of anybody, any young person around the country getting Men B are fantastically small at this point in time. This is not COVID. This is not a virus that's going to rush through the population. This is a bacterium transmitted between young people who are in close contact with each other at the beginning of March in a nightclub in Canterbury. So even within Canterbury, looking for this vaccine in the general population is probably not merited. It's just not necessary.
The outbreak has sparked a serious demand for the Men B vaccine, and Oliver PIcard of the National Association of Pharmacies says that it's almost impossible to find supplies of the vaccine because of extraordinary demand.
There's no date of resupply, and I currently, to give you an idea, overnight between sort of the hours of 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. this morning, I have received over 100 appointments through our booking system in my pharmacies for vaccine. We simply don't have no idea when they will be available, and we are at the mercy of the manufacturers and the wholesalers to supply our pharmacies. And our patients are worried. They want their children vaccinated. And what do I say to a mother who has children going to the University of Surrey or University of London who have children who want to live a university life? Who am I to say they can or cannot have the vaccine? It's an impossible situation.
The world of tech is full of twists and turns. One week, you're the hot new thing. The next week, you're forgotten about, like Google Glass. This week saw a fairly major announcement delivered in a low-key way as Mark Zuckerberg's much-hyped metaverse appeared to suffer a serious setback. It's time to catch up with the only man who can maneuver his way through the virtual reality of big tech. It's the Smart 7's tech guru, Will Guyatt. So, Will, is the metaverse dead?
Yes, it's deader than my social life.
Mark Zuckerberg really went all in on this concept. He renamed his company and threw huge resources at it. What happened?
Despite Zuckerberg dropping at least $80 billion into the idea that we'd all be heading like Lawnmower Man into a VR world in these shiny new headsets, the idea was dead on arrival, thanks to around 40% of us vomiting into a bin within minutes of using these low-cost headsets. Meta first announced it was closing the VR flagship Horizon app, which was meant to be the place where we all hung out together, while keeping it going on mobile. And when the press rightly identified this as perhaps tech's biggest white elephant since the Betamax video, Meta slightly backtracked by announcing that Horizon would remain live on VR headsets for another 18 months, at the same time as accusing media for false reporting, despite laying off over 1,000 people in its metaverse team and shutting down a number of VR studios it had purchased. Just imagine renaming your company for its future and then realising the future you imagined was just a bit crap.
Was it Nick Clegg playing tennis that killed it?
It didn't kill it, but it did turn up to the party with a few extra nails for the coffin lid. I don't think I'm ever going to forget the ridiculous concept video that launched the metaverse. It was like Zuck and our former deputy PM lived next door to each other and still loved to play some kind of virtual tennis that looked undercooked in 2020, even when compared to tennis on the Nintendo Wii from 14 years earlier. It was the legless Clegg and Zuck avatars, legless not from booze, but from the fact they hadn't designed legs that got so ridiculed that Meta quickly redesigned the whole look and feel, but it never recovered.
Apart from the collapse of the metaverse, there was some other odd news this week. What are Instagram up to with our DMs?
This one came out of nowhere and took many of us by surprise. You'll know that most services have now shifted to encrypted messaging, so third parties can't see what's in your conversations, and Instagram has now decided it's actually removing that encryption from its DMs. They say it was down to low adoption and are encouraging encouraging people to use WhatsApp if they want to continue private conversations. Some critics think this could be Meta playing 9-dimensional chess. They don't want to face governments globally who are concerned about what's going on behind those encrypted chats on the platform, and by removing encryption they can become more friendly in the eyes of government and law enforcement agencies. Let's see how this one plays out.
Should I be deleting all those Harry Styles photos?
Well, maybe send them to me first while we can still have an encrypted chat on Insta before it's switched off in May. I'll help you to decide what to do with them.
There was a serious hiccup at Companies House this week too, wasn't there?
There's around 5 million companies registered in the UK, including my own, and the Companies House website is a really important place which shares contact details, accounts and other important things. So imagine the horror of everyone with a business discovering that a recent technical error allowed logged in users to access and alter others' confidential details. The good news is that passwords and ID verification processes were not compromised, but this mistake existed for over 6 months. That's just not good enough.
And finally, will.i.am is not a man who seems to sleep much, is he? What is his latest genius idea?
If I was a tech entrepreneur or large company wanting to get some recognition for my latest launch, I'm not entirely sure I'd be calling Will in 2026. There's probably at least 10 other launches I've been invited to over the years, and I'm not sure that any of those products move beyond concept or those really uncomfortable celebrity interviews at the announcement stage. But this week, he's essentially rebooted the Sinclair C5 from the 80s and made it look a bit more like it came from Tron. It's called Trinity and is designed for city commuters. It talks to the driver, it assists them with their tasks, and according to Will, turns travel time into productivity. He unveiled it at Nvidia's annual AI Tech Conference in Silicon Valley and called the freewheeler vehicle Brains on Wheels. Apparently, it's going to go from 0 to 60 miles an hour in under 2 seconds, which feels frankly terrifying on a trike. They say it's going to sell for $30,000 and will launch in limited numbers, as essentially they want users to be their guinea pigs in a vehicle that can travel at up to 60 miles an hour in packed cities. Let's hope that will.i.am is concentrating on the road and not knocking out another Black Eyed Peas banger behind the controls.
Still to come on the Sunday 7 in association with Metro, America gets a surprise in the skies and we meet the UK's new supercomputer. North America got a St. Patrick's Day surprise this week as a 7-ton meteor streaked across the skies above Ontario and as far as Ohio. There were a number of unusual things going on. Firstly, it was bright enough to be seen in the daylight, and secondly, the fact that it was so large it created a genuine sonic boom, which was kindly recreated by local eyewitness Dan Cooke for ABC's Good America.
Boom! Like that. Like, bah! Like that.
The meteor was about 6 feet in diameter, but was moving at more than 40,000 miles per hour as it crossed over into Earth's atmosphere, which is part of the reason it created such a loud and distinctive sonic boom, heard across as many as 10 states. William Cooke, who is no relation to the excitable Dan, is manager of NASA's Meteoroid Environment Program, and he says it's a rare event.
This thing just broke apart violently, scattered fragments everywhere, and this explosion generated a shock wave or a pressure wave that traveled to the ground, and that's the explosions people saw.
The UK got a significant IT upgrade this week as the brand new supercomputer Sunrise came online. Technology Secretary Peter Kyle officially powered up the machine, which is based at a low-carbon data centre in Bristol. It, along with another supercomputer called Dawn, which is based at Cambridge, are key parts of the UK's strategy to become an AI superpower. The machine will be used for things like helping to reduce NHS waiting lists and developing new tools to tackle climate change. The new machine is officially the 11th most powerful computer in the world, and Sunrise will also be put to work by the UK's Atomic Energy Authority as they look to develop new ways to power the UK, including the complex world of nuclear fusion. Professor Emily Shuckburgh, CBE, is the Chief Scientific Advisor at the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero, and she says the extensive abilities of the new machine could make a big difference.
Put simply, we're trying to tame the heart of an artificial star, and in doing so, create clean, safe and reliable energy. To take the next step into the commercial fusion energy era, we need to learn more about the technology, and that's where computing comes in. Supercomputers have an incredible capacity to overcome very complex challenges very quickly. The latest exascale computers are over 1 million times more powerful than the fastest laptops. When they're used for large-scale simulations in AI, the results can be game-changing, both for scientific research and for the economy.
Still to come on the Sunday 7 in association with Metro, Wallace and Gromit have a clay problem, and we listen to some Wales from the 1950s.
Right after this.
Big news! Boost Mobile is now sending experts nationwide to deliver and set up customers' new phones at home or work.
Wait, we're going on tour?
Not a tour. We're delivering and setting up customers' phones so it's easier to upgrade.
Let's get in the tour bus and hit the road.
No, not a tour bus. It's a regular car we use to deliver and set up customers' phones at home or work.
Are you a groupie on this tour?
We deliver and set up phones. It's not a tour.
Oh, you're definitely a groupie.
Introducing Store to Door. Switch and get a new device with expert setup and delivery wherever you're at.
Delivery available for select devices purchased at boostmobile.com.
Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
Welcome back.
Wallace and Gromit have become iconic characters, but they're not just lovable characters in kid movies. They're also unique, as Aardman Studios use stop-motion animation to create them, which sees models made from clay used to tell the stories. However, there's a problem, and that's because the clay that Aardman use is in short supply. The company that made the clay, which was called Newplast, closed down in 2023, and the team have been searching for a solution ever since. Jay Smart is a senior puppet maker at Aardman, and he explained how he's had to hide away the supplies until a solution is found.
I've got so much now, because I've got so many hidey holes of clay, so I've got about 3 or 4 rooms of shelves full of clay actually. And this is a terracotta, which actually famously we use for morph. We don't have any wax in our clay. A lot of time, the wax, especially in the heat and the lights, it will melt and it will go soft and it will droop. We can't have a grommet or a morph just suddenly collapsing over several hours.
With no immediate source of clay, Kate Anderson is head of puppets at Aardman, and she says the company had no choice but to try and make their own.
We decided, right, okay, we're going to at least have a try. Can we mix clay ourselves? Eventually we did make something which I would say definitely was clay. We thought, well, we don't really want to go into production because that's not what we do. You know, we make puppets and we animate.
It was a real struggle. So Sean Clark, who is the managing director of the studio, and Ian Whitlock, the animation director, were both incredibly relieved when a solution to the clay problem arrived.
And then Hugh came along. They do a lot of packages and products for schools and for students, and decided to buy Newplast.
Suddenly it felt like there was this lifeline out there for this very specific particular type of clay.
The AI boom has seen chipmaker Nvidia become one of the world's most valuable companies, as the big tech giants have rushed to buy their technology to power the next generation of AI computing. This week saw Nvidia hosting their annual GPU Technology Conference in San Jose, California. The conference attracts about 30,000 people to see the latest developments in AI, which included new robots, Will.i.am's mini electric car that we heard about earlier, and some incredible animatronics from the Disney engineering department. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang, who has become a regular sight on our screens in his trademark leather jacket, and his keynote speech saw him lay out his version for the future of AI, which includes application across video games and other industries. He was sounding a positive note, though, about AI's impact on employment.
We are tens of millions of manufacturing workers short. Employment's very high, and yet many companies don't have enough labor. Robots will fill in that gap, number one. As a result of filling that gap, all of our country's economy will grow. And when the economy grows, most companies tend to hire more people.
He also brought a special guest as part of a new generation of robots powered by AI and Newton, NVIDIA's open source physics engine. The guest was a mini animated version of Olaf, the iconic snowman from Frozen. But even with all the technology, it still made for an awkward onstage conversation.
Olaf, how are you?
Fine. So happy now that I'm meeting you.
I know, because I gave you your computer, Jetson.
What's that?
Well, it's in your tummy.
That's it. Me.
And you learn how to walk inside Omniverse.
Out of walking. This is so much better than riding on a reindeer gazing up at a beautiful sky.
Those are the sounds of whales underwater, but not just any whales. Those whales' songs were first recorded in March 1949. The recordings were made on an audiograph, and Ashley Jester, who is the Director of Research Data and Library Services at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, explains how it came about.
The autograph disc was recorded by Hui scientists who were on a research cruise working with the Office of Naval Research to understand basic science about how sound travels underwater. They were hearing sounds they were not expecting. They were curious, and so they kept this recorder running, and they even made time to make recordings where they weren't making any noise from their ships on purpose, and we've had them in the data library and archive since they were originally made.
Peter Dyack is a senior scientist in biology at Woods Hole, and he says the remarkable thing is that we didn't even realise that whales were making these sounds when the recordings were first made.
The wonderful engineer who had provided this autograph to make recordings, they had no idea what those recordings were of. They were just curious about what it might be. And because that data was preserved, we now today, I could listen for tens of seconds and say, oh my gosh, that is a humpbacked whale from 1949 singing more than a decade before any human knew what this sound really was. These recordings that Ashley has recovered not only allow us to follow the whale sounds, but they also tell us what the ocean's soundscape was like in the late 1940s. The ocean has changed drastically over the decades in terms of temperature, in terms of salinity, in terms of pH, and also in terms of sound. All of these factors are really important for marine life, and we need to be able to look at how they've changed over the decades in order to protect marine life for the future.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.
Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.